Well, good morning and welcome to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom, and we are broadcasting from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. And what a show we have in store for you this morning. We have special guest, Drenal Bakari. He wraps up our Steuben County Legislature primary interviews. He is running in the district of Irwin. We had his opponents on last week. What a week last week, huh? On Friday's broadcast, we had Congressman Nick Langworthy, who came in studio for an in-depth interview. If you missed it, because I couldn't highlight it ahead of time because of scheduling scenarios. So if you missed it, it is on YouTube. And also, the congressman was kind enough to share it on his weekly newsletter that he sends out to everyone. I thought that was very nice of him. Give Frankly Speaking some extra attention. So if you missed it, you can either click on it in the newsletter or find it on Big Fox's YouTube page. It was quite an interview. We also had former Congressman Joe Sempolinski, and that all the interviews are now up on our website, WYDCTV.com, or on our YouTube page. Okay, we are going to be talking about Iran. We do have some other updates as well when it comes to the Trump administration in general, the Democrats trying to find their message. We're going to be talking about that as well. First up, let's go to the Steuben Senior Services Fund section of our program where we read viewer comments. This coming in yesterday. A viewer writes, funny, Democrats want a proxy war against Russia that has the most nuclear weapons in the world and are scared of Iran without one. They okayed long-range missiles for Ukraine to use. Never mentioned Russia has the ability to hit the continental United States. They poke the bear and cower from a paper tiger. Thank you very much. Yes. What was your thoughts on Saturday as the news broke? Donald Trump tweeting out Saturday night, not tweeting, truth socialing, said, we have completed our very successful attack on the 3 nuclear sites in Iran, including Fordo, Natanz, and Isfahan. I don't know how to pronounce it. All planes are now outside of Iran airspace. A full payload of bombs was dropped on the primary site, Fordo. All planes are safely on their way home. Congratulations to our great American warriors. There is not another military in the world that could have done this. Now is the time for peace. Thank you for your attention to this matter. And you know it's an important truth social when he says thank you for your attention on this matter. He declared that the U.S. airstrike on the 3 key nuclear facilities were hard and accurate and led to monumental damage. The damage to the nuclear sites in Iran is said to be monumental. The hits were hard and accurate. Great skill was shown by our military. Thank you. During the live address to the nation on Saturday evening, which was a great speech, I had to watch it after the fact. I did not realize there was going to be a kind of a break-in. Trump explained that massive precision strikes were carried out as part of an effort to destroy Iran's 3 key nuclear facilities. Trump explained during his address that the key nuclear enrichment facilities have been completely and totally obliterated. While Trump has said that the sites had been totally obliterated, several U.S. and Israeli officials told the New York Times that Fordo nuclear site was left severely damaged, not totally destroyed. The Israeli military, in its initial analysis, believes the heavily fortified nuclear site at Fordo has sustained serious damage from the American strike on Sunday, but has not been completely destroyed, according to 2 Israeli officials with knowledge of the matter. The officials also said it appeared Iran had moved equipment, including uranium, from the site. A senior U.S. official similarly acknowledged that the American strike on the Fordo site did not destroy the heavily fortified facility, but said the strike had severely damaged it, taking it off the table. The person noted that even 12 bunker-busting bombs could not destroy the site. Now, in another Truth Social, Trump suggested that if the current Iranian regime is unable to make Iran great again, then it should be time for regime change. It's not politically correct to use the term regime change, said the president. But if the current Iranian regime is unable to make Iran great again, why wouldn't there be a regime change? MIGA? I guess is how you'd say that. Make Iran great again. Now that comes as Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, clarified that the mission has not been about regime change. But yes, that is kind of the hinting at, or not even hinting, calling for regime change by saying make Iran great again. We are going to tell you what some of the politicians have been saying about this, some of the talking heads, because I think that is pretty interesting. Trump's Iran attack caught the world off guard, and some of it was because of that fake out was saying, well, I'm going to decide in 2 weeks, right? I had many people say to me, well, we'll know in 2 weeks. And little did we know that was used as a fake out. President Trump caught the world off guard Saturday by bombing the 3 Iranian nuclear sites after his apparently strategic deception, indicating that such strikes weren't imminent, and trickery with the deployment of the U.S. Air Force B-2 bombers. Trump said Thursday that he would make a decision in the next 2 weeks to allow more time for negotiations, giving the sense of reprieve amid fevered speculation he might join Israel's airstrikes. Based on the fact that there's a substantial change of negotiations that may or may not take place with Iran in the near future, I will make my decision whether or not to go within the next 2 weeks, he said in a statement at the time that we brought to you on this program. The timing was stunning, in part because 6 B-2 stealth bombers capable of carrying 30,000-pound bunker buster bombs had been tracked leaving Missouri early Saturday and were likely incapable of reaching Iran until late Sunday, according to published flight times. The B-2 is believed to be the main type of plane capable of delivering the 30,000-pound bunker buster bombs. Israel lacked the planes needed to drop the heavy bombs, and since last Thursday had been dropping less powerful 2,000-pound bombs. So a little bit of a deception there. Look at all these waves coming in. Thank you, everybody. Some comments. We'll get to those in just a moment. Iran ordered the closure of the Strait of Hormuz, putting 1/5 of world's oil supply at risk. Iran's parliament has voted to close the Strait of Hormuz. That's a big story breaking late last night. That is the shipping channel through which around 20% of the world's daily oil flows. The move, which would block $1 billion in oil shipments per day, is likely to send oil prices soaring. Brent crude oil, the international standard, jumped 3.9% to $80 a barrel on Sunday, while U.S. crude rose 4.3% to $77 a barrel. This really coming at no surprise. This was one of the things that needed to be taken into consideration. We had an opinion piece last week discussing this matter, and I know we had a viewer comment on this specifically, that was one of the concerns they had if we joined in the fight against Iran, the price of oil and what that would do to Trump's kind of legacy, if you will. Now, Iran's foreign minister also warned that the U.S. strikes will have, and I quote, everlasting consequences. The United States, a permanent member of the United Nations Security Council, has committed a grave violation of the UN Charter, international law, and the NPT by attacking Iran's peaceful nuclear installations, they wrote on Twitter. The events this morning are outrageous and will have everlasting consequences. Each and every member of the UN must be alarmed over this extremely dangerous, lawless, and criminal behavior. In accordance with the UN Charter and its provisions allowing a legitimate response and self-defense, Iran reserves all options to defend its sovereignty, interest, and people. Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps warned that the U.S. should expect a response to its attacks, calling any retaliation by Iran, quote, legitimate self-defense, in a statement released on Sunday. The bases and locations used by the forces that carried out the attacks have been identified, they said in a statement. The U.S. bases were a point of weakness that increases the enemy's vulnerability, the statement read. Now, as of this morning, Iran's Supreme Leader Ayatollah al-Khamenei has not yet issued a response following the attack. However, one of his aides warned that the game is not over for Iran's nuclear program. Iranian President Mossad Pezeshkian reportedly told French President Emmanuel Macron during a call that the Americans must receive a response to their aggression. They also, in the media, in Iran's media, saying, you started it, we will end it, in a warning to Donald Trump. Also showing photos of U.S. military bases in the Middle East. Now, let's see, where is it here? I thought there was an exact quote, but again, Mr. Trump, you started it, we will end it. Well, Marco Rubio, and if anybody watched the Sunday shows, I know we have a whole list of some of the statements made by J.D. Vance, Marco Rubio. Well, Rubio warned Iran that if it strikes back, it will be, and I quote, the worst mistake they have ever made. Rubio saying on Sunday Morning Futures on Fox News, that was an Iranian choice. We didn't make that choice. Iran tried to play Trump similar to how they played every American president for the last 35 years. They did by playing games with Donald Trump. They made a huge mistake. If they retaliate, it will be the worst mistake they have ever made. Look, we can fly in and out of Iran at will. We went in last night. The president sent our military forces from halfway across the world, went in, conducted the operation, left, and not a shot was fired against us. They use diplomacy to hide behind and obfuscate and think they can buy themselves time. They think they're cute. They're not cute. And they're going to get away with this stuff. And they're not going to get away with this stuff. Not under President Trump. Now, as I mentioned, Iran seething with hatred. And the operation, because of the operation, it's been dubbed Operation Midnight Hammer by the U.S., and again, Iran saying we will be held fully accountable. Now, some analysts have speculated that Iran could fire off attacks against U.S. bases or other military assets in the region. But Rubio saying of Iran, they are completely vulnerable. They don't control their own airspace. They can't protect their own airspace. They can't even protect their own leaders. So I think it would be a big mistake if they did anything against us. But look, they'll have to make that decision. Now, again, you do see the shutting down of the Strait of Hormuz, which will be financially a financial hit. Rubio also saying, I encourage the Chinese government in Beijing to call them about that because they heavily depend on the Strait of Hormuz for oil. If Iranian officials try to close the waterways, it will be another terrible mistake. It's economic suicide for them if they do it. He also stressed that this is not a war against Iran and denied that the U.S. is seeking regime change, even though President Trump hinted at his want for a regime change. Rubio saying that's certainly not the goal of what we're working on here. The goal, stated very clearly in a letter the president sent to the supreme leader, Ayatollah al-Khamenei. He also tore into Iran's troubled history, assessing that it's the sole source of instability in the entire Middle East, and the world's been paying a price for this for 40-something years. Imagine these people having a nuclear weapon. Just one nuclear weapon, or even the capability to being on the threshold of having a nuclear weapon. While several neighboring countries in the Middle East have condemned the strikes, Rubio claimed that privately they all agree with us that this needed to be done. He also said it was irrelevant whether Iran was actively pursuing a nuke before the U.S. bombed. That's what he told CBS's Face the Nation, not taking that kind of confrontational interview style that we see so often when a Republican is being quote-unquote grilled, right, on the mainstream media outlets. He said that's irrelevant when pressed about U.S. intelligence on Iran's nuclear ambitions. They have everything they need to build a weapon. Now, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has already taken preemptive strikes against Iran, defended the move by claiming he has absolutely clear intelligence that Iran was working on a secret plan to weaponize the uranium. They had everything they need to build nuclear weapons, said Rubio. Why would you bury things in a mountain 300 feet under the ground? You don't need 60% enriched uranium. The only countries in the world that have uranium at 60% are countries that have nuclear weapons. Now, in all of this, the U.S. bases are now on high alert for possible retaliation. We're going to talk a little bit more about that. A lot of this is going to get into what others are saying, some of the talking heads, some of the op-ed pieces. It's not the only thing we're going to talk about this morning. I do have quite a few updates on the Democrat Party, who is, as we talked about with the former Congressman Joe Semplinsky, is in, well, to use their term, chaos. They're broke. They're struggling. We're going to talk about that. But I'd love to hear your comments. What was your initial reaction when you heard the news on Saturday that we had bombed those nuclear facilities? What is your reaction this morning? Where do you think this leads? As I mentioned, We'll be talking with Dronald Bakari. He is a candidate for Steuben County Legislature, District 12. That's Irwin. That will wrap up our Irwin interviews. Don't forget, I know it's going to be brutally hot today and tomorrow, but I would encourage you, no matter where you're at, if you have a primary, to please get out and vote tomorrow. Tomorrow is primary day. I know we've been asked to vote, at least in Corning Painted Post, 3 times, twice for school budget, now for the primary. But this is, as we talked about with Joe Sempolinski, this is the kind of election, the primaries, that comes down to sometimes 1, 2, 3 votes. Percentage-wise, your vote matters perhaps more in these races than any other. And I know that sounds weird because your vote always counts, it always matters. But this is the kind of race, any of them, that can be decided by a handful of votes, that one person who helped get out maybe 5 more people than their opponents. And I know most, if not all, candidates are out knocking on doors or making their point, as today is really the last day to campaign. So please mark your calendar. Don't forget, it's a very important day. Tomorrow is primary day, and we'll be reminding you tomorrow as well. But right now it's time to take a break. Keep those comments, keep those waves coming in. We're just getting warmed up on this Monday morning, very hot Monday morning edition of Frankly Speaking. Stay with us.
Frankly Speaking, Roof Cam is brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact Boss Security for all your business and home security needs.
What better start or end every day than relaxing in your very own Hesselson's hot tub? Massage therapy, relaxation, stress reliever, pain management, soothing muscles, or just spending time with a loved one. Hot water therapy really does make every day better. Hesselson's has been a part of this great community for over 70 years, still being locally owned and operated. So make the drive to Hesselson's and start making your path to a better life today. And after 70 years, it's still fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
When you're on, don't forget to visit our Facebook page at Big Fox News. Catch up on news from the Twin Tiers. Vote on the daily question and hear about local events. All on Facebook.com/Big Fox News.
Since 1983, Nissan has been assembling award-winning vehicles for you, right here in America. And we're committed to keeping our lineup affordable and free from new tariffs. That's why we've lowered MSRP on our best-selling Rogue and Pathfinder. So you can get the car you want, at the price you want, knowing Nissan is here for you at the Nissan Summer Sales Event.
Now get 0% APR financing for 60 months on Rogue or Pathfinder, or get a low $239 per month lease on Rogue.
When I'm in Elmira and Corning, I watch Big Fox.
If you or a loved one regularly used hair relaxers or straighteners and were diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, you may be entitled to significant financial compensation.
I've used hair relaxers for years. I had no idea they could cause cancer.
Chemical hair relaxers and straighteners have been linked to serious conditions, including several types of cancer. If you used hair relaxers and have been diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, call us now. There's no fee unless we win your case.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. It looks hot out there, doesn't it? We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio on Market Street in Corning. Let's go to some viewer comments during our Steuben Senior Services Fund section of the program. Steuben Senior Services Fund, empowering seniors to age at home. Jack writes in that he thinks that unless there's some Trump 3D chess going on, we better brace ourselves for tough financial roads ahead. And Mark writes in saying, in my opinion, after we bombed Iran, the fight has just begun over there. And over here, cyber attacks are warned, and they're going to shut down the waterways, as we mentioned, and also how many are in our country. Beware. To Mark's point, U.S. bases are on high alert for possible retaliation after Trump's Iran strikes. There's quite a few military bases that Iran may target. Also, Homeland Security warns of possible terrorist attacks in the United States following the strike on Iran. DHS warned officials to be on the lookout for Iranian-led attacks over the next 3 months by terror cells inspired to retaliate after Saturday night's strike. Quote, the likelihood of violent extremists in the homeland independently mobilizing to violence in response to the conflict would likely increase if Iranian leadership issued a religious ruling calling for retaliatory violence against targets in the homeland, said DHS in that bulletin. Along with the possibility of extremist attacks on U.S. soil, officials warned that the chances of both cyber attacks and anti-Semitic acts are likely to increase. Now, kind of speaking of that, and we're going to tell you some other updates, but in Manhattan, in our state of New York, in the city, hundreds took to the streets yesterday to denounce President Trump's decision to bomb Iran and pledged to march on the White House later this month. Fuming New Yorkers gathered in Times Square on Sunday afternoon to denounce President Trump's unilateral decision to bomb nuclear enrichment targets in Iran and pledged to march on the White House. Imagine being on that side of history, that you're that upset that this bombing was done to end Iran's nuclear weapons program. This is from AMNY, who, keep in mind as I read this piece, endorsed former Governor Cuomo for mayor, saying assembling in the crossroads of the world, it was as if the time had been reversed to the 1970s or the run-up to the Iraq War in March of 2003. Playing loud anti-war music from decades long since past and brandishing picket signs. The hippie movement was alive again as several hundred people made their feelings known on the United States' latest intervention in the Middle East. So this is like when we see the anti-Semitic protests on college campuses and they try to compare it to the Vietnam War protests. It's so weird, this romanticizing of the 60s protest movement. But when you have people that are upset, that are protesting because Iran potentially lost their nuclear weapons program, that isn't what I would consider a hippie movement. Wasn't it the hippies that wanted to end the potential for nuclear war? But this romanticizing. Well, I'll continue. With beads of sweat pouring down their foreheads on a torrid Sunday, citizens chastised Trump for making false campaign promises last year, during which he vowed not to bring the U.S. into any new war. Eitan Mobarak of the National Iranian American Council saying this looks like it will bring another forever war in the Middle East, a forever war that Trump pledged he would avoid. Our hearts are with everyone in Iran and in Israel who has been impacted by this horrific, avoidable war. Anyone, including American service members, who could now be put at risk of the consequences of this war of choice. U.S. Representative, we're going to go through a lot of what reps had to say, what Chuck Schumer had to say, AOC, and others. But Dan Goldman says, while we don't, and this is U.S. Representative Dan Golden, said, while we don't yet know if last night's military action started a war or prevented one, I'm nevertheless deeply troubled about President Trump's unilateral decision to take this action without consulting Congress, including the Democratic members of the Gang of Eight. In the absence of a declaration of war or congressional authorization, the War Powers Resolution requires President Trump to report to Congress within 48 hours. I intend to hold him accountable to his responsibility to share the latest classified intelligence, tactical and strategic considerations and results, and the legal justification for the administration's action. Our Senator, Kirsten Gillibrand, also voiced her outrage. I'm deeply concerned by President Trump's decision to unilaterally launch these attacks without seeking congressional authorization, as required by the Constitution. The Trump administration must fully explain to the American people the rationale for this military action and a strategy to avoid being mired in another Middle Eastern war, and it must give Congress a full intelligence briefing immediately. Meanwhile, protesters continued marching through Midtown Manhattan, chanting, "No war." They say they are not done, and for the third or perhaps fourth time in this article, they say, quote, they will march on the White House in Washington. Thanks, Dean Moses, who wrote that. Akin to the hippie movement. Your thoughts on that? Now, the Kremlin warned that other nations are ready to give Iran nukes, that a dangerous escalation has begun. Dmitry Medvedev, who serves as deputy head of Russia President Vladimir Putin's Security Council, claimed Saturday's airstrike only caused minimal damage to Tehran's nuclear sites, including the fortified Fordo enrichment plant. Medvedev who did not specify which countries are ready to arm Tehran, reiterated that the attacks would not stop Russia's ally in the Middle East from acquiring nuclear weapons. Now, Ukraine showered Trump with praise for the strikes on Iran, as Putin suggests that they will give, or some countries will give, Iran nuclear weapons. Meanwhile, former Russian President Dmitry Medvedev blasted the move and starkly warned that countries are ready to directly supply Iran with their own nuclear warheads, while chiding that Trump can now kiss his dreams of a Nobel Peace Prize goodbye. Now, according to, where is it here? Ukraine's foreign minister, as early as this spring, the United States warned Iran of the consequences in the absence of constructive steps. Iran is complicit in the crime of aggression against Ukraine. The Iranian regime is providing military assistance to Russia, including the supply of unmanned aerial vehicles and technologies that Russia consistently uses to kill people and destroy critical infrastructure. Throughout the war, Russia has turned to Iran and North Korea to resources to assist in its bloody invasion of neighboring Ukraine. When we come back, we're going to go through some statements, some opinion pieces. Again, this is not the only topic we'll be discussing this morning. I would love to hear your thoughts on it. I'm going to sneeze, so I'm going to take a quick break. Stay with us.
Want to know why it's hard to stop a train? It's how we've invented products that reinvented our world. It's how we test as hard as the elements do. It's how we run.
Aaron's Heating and Air Conditioning in Corning is now offering residential plumbing services. A local, veteran-owned and operated company with over 25 years experience. You can trust the experts at Aaron's Heating and Air Conditioning.
Welcome back to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom. And how can we help like that in our small businesses, not to sound cliche, but are the backbone of our community? Let's talk about Thanks, as always, to you, the viewers, for sending in your texts and your voicemails. Now we go to a comment. This is from John in Elmira. Make sure to catch Frankly Speaking only on AM Big Fox News WYDC, or visit our website at WYDCTV.com.
Fox 10 p.m. News is the first primetime local news for the Twin Tiers. Our reporters, Haley and Dante, scour the southern tier to bring you up-to-date news regarding local businesses, economics, and how national decisions impact our area. If you're not near a TV, don't worry. You can also catch our 10 p.m. news live on WYDCTV.com/livestream. Don't miss Big Fox 10 p.m. news on WYDC, on TV, or our website.
Stay up to date on Twin Tiers local news by visiting WYDCTV.com. We've got it all on our website. Daily and weekly weather forecast, question of the day, things to do, and more. Follow us today at Big Fox News on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and X. WYDCTV.com, your website for everything Twin Tiers local. WYDC.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. So glad that you joined us this morning. Let's look at some statements that were made after the bombing in Iran. Congressman Nick Langworthy, who was kind enough to be our guest on Friday, and again, kind enough to share our interview in his weekly newsletter. If you did not see the interview, it is up on our YouTube page. He said, and this was sent out Saturday, today, President Trump acted with strength and clarity to eliminate a grave threat to our nation, our allies, and the world. After Iran refused every diplomatic path and persisted in its dangerous pursuit of nuclear weapons, the president was left with no choice but to defend American interests and global security. We honor and salute the brave men and women of the United States military who executed this critical mission with precision, courage, and professionalism. By destroying Iran's nuclear sites, President Trump demonstrated bold leadership, unshakable resolve, and an unwavering commitment to safeguarding our homeland and our allies. This action sends an unmistakable message. The United States will never tolerate a nuclear-armed Iran, and we will stand firm and unflinching against aggression and terror. I stand with the President and our heroic service members as they defend peace and protect the American people. So thank you to Congressman Nick Langworthy. Speaker Johnson saying the president made the right call and did what he needed to do. Leaders in Congress were aware of the urgency of this situation, and the commander-in-chief evaluated that the imminent danger outweighed the time it would take for Congress to act. The world's largest state sponsor of terrorism, which chants death to America, simply could not be allowed the opportunity to obtain and use nuclear weapons. The president fully respects the Article 1 power of Congress, and tonight's necessary, limited, and targeted strike follows the history and tradition of similar military actions under presidents of both parties. Now, in the Senate Majority Leader John Thune said the regime in Iran, which has committed itself to bringing death to America and wiping Israel off the map, has rejected all diplomatic pathways to peace. The mullah's misguided pursuit of nuclear weapons must be stopped. As we take action tonight to ensure a nuclear weapon remains out of the reach of Iran, I stand with President Trump and pray for the American troops and personnel in harm's way. Senate Republican Conference Chair Tom Cotton saying Iran has waged a war of terror against the United States for 46 years. We could never allow Iran to get nuclear weapons. God bless our brave troops. President Trump made the right call, and the Ayatollah should recall his warning not to target Americans. We could go through. I did want to mention just a couple other comments. Ted Cruz saying, I commend our pilot and service members, our intelligence personnel, and his national security staff on tonight's successful and critical operations. The prospect of the Iranian regime requiring nuclear weapons represents the most acute, immediate threat to America and our allies. When the Ayatollah chants death to America, he means it. And the reason he is building nuclear weapons is because he intends to use them. President Trump has consistently and unequivocally stated that those threats cannot be countered without dismantling the Iranian regime's enrichment capacity. The president and his negotiators spent 2 months exploring whether the regime would agree to a negotiated settlement that met America's national security needs. At the end of that period, Iranian regime officials declared that instead of agreeing to deal, they would open a new enrichment facility and install more advanced centrifuges. After that declaration, our Israeli allies launched a preemptive attack against the regime and its nuclear infrastructure, which was enormously successful. It could not disable the nuclear activities at Fordo, an underground enrichment bunker built into a mountain, which was legitimized by the Obama-era deal. As long as Iran was able to access and enrich uranium, they could still rush to build a nuclear arsenal. Tonight's actions have gone far in foreclosing that possibility and countering the apocalyptic threat posed by an Iranian nuclear arsenal. Lindsey Graham, who has always been kind of pro-attacking Iran, said, good, this was the right call. The regime deserves it. Well done, President Trump. To my fellow citizens, we have the best Air Force in the world. It makes me so proud. Fly, fight, win. Democrat Senator John Fetterman, who has been very supportive of Israel, kind of bucking the normal Democrat talking points, much to the chagrin of Democrats, and that's why they start to question his mental health and things like that. But he said, again, John Fetterman, as I've long maintained, this was the correct move by the president. Iran is the world's leading sponsor of terrorism and cannot have nuclear capabilities. I'm grateful for and salute the finest military in the world. Now, I did not see a statement from Elise Stefanik. I'm not sure why that is. Maybe I went through this too quick, but I did want to mention, because there are a few, well, there's two people that people speculate are going to run for governor, one or the other. That's Elise Stefanik, who is the president's choice, and there's Mike Lawler. Mike Lawler did tweet out yesterday a message, and again, I just couldn't find Elise Stefanik. That's not saying it's not out there, it just wasn't on the list. Mike Lawler said President Trump made the right decision, and like when President Obama struck Libya, Syria, Pakistan, and Yemen, he did so under the terms of the 2001 and 2002 AUMF. War has not been declared. However, a nuclear Iran has been prevented. I fully support the president's decision. So those are some of the statements. Also, the president's team was on the Sunday shows. We'll talk a little bit about that. We're going to talk about what some of the negative comments. One last thing before we wrap up, and I think this is worth mentioning before we wrap up this segment. Franklin Graham said that President Trump needs wisdom and strength from God in making decisions on global affairs. He said, will you join me in lifting up President Donald Trump in prayers? From our earthly view, we see ominous storm clouds gathered around the globe. With Iran and Israel engaged in war, Russia and Ukraine in continued deadly conflict, China imposing an imminent threat to Taiwan, war in Sudan, and more, it seems as though the whole world is on the brink of fracturing. Our president needs wisdom and strength from God. The decisions he is called upon to make will affect each one of us, our country, and the entire world. I pray that God will direct his steps as he leads our nation through the most turbulent times we've experienced in decades. He concluded by quoting Matthew 24:7, saying, "The Bible tells us, for nations will rise against nations and kingdom against kingdom." Please pray for innocent people caught in the bombings and missile attacks. May God's protection be on the churches and the Christians in Iran, and may he protect the Jewish people, God's chosen people of Israel. My prayer is that the eyes of all who live in these countries will be open to the truth of God's word. So there you go. That's Franklin Graham. We've got some other comments. What do you hear what Chuck Schumer, AOC, and that one mayoral candidate in New York had to say? We'll talk about that when we come back. Stay with us. You guys are being quiet this morning. Is it because it's so warm? You don't feel like talking politics when it's 90 degrees. I understand. But we're here for you anyway. Just sit back and listen. And we'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
Attention, Elmeron may lead to vision loss.
If you have suffered vision problems after taking Elmeron to treat bladder pain, call the Hearn Law Firm. Elmeron may be responsible for your vision problems, and you may deserve compensation for your injuries.
If you took Elmeron and now have vision problems, call the Hearn Law Firm at 888-308-3866 right now. You could find out if you qualify in less than 2 minutes. Call 888-308-3866 for your free case review.
When you're online, don't forget to visit our Facebook page at Big Fox News. Catch up on news from the Twin Tiers. Vote on the daily question and hear about local events. All on Facebook.com/Big Fox News.
Hey, this is John with John's Tree Service. Spring is here and summer is coming. Do you have a tree in your backyard that just doesn't look nice? Kind of makes your property look a little rough? John's Tree Service, licensed, insured, locally owned, and rated A+ with the Better Business Bureau. Do you have a monster tree in your backyard? Is there no access to it? Can it not be climbed? Is it too dead? We can put our crane and reach over your house and pull that tree down, do it in a safe manner. Coming to a neighborhood near you to service all your tree needs. Call today at 607-377-6513.
It's a season of Sherry.
Having a good time has always been my #1 goal. I tend to get crazy. At my age, I should not be jumping up and down like that. And if you don't know what I mean, ask your mama. The young ones, y'all like, we don't know what you talking about. But I promise you, in 30 years, you will.
It's the best time in daytime.
Weekdays at 2 p.m. on Big Fox.
Catch Twin Tiers local news and weather by visiting WYDCTV.com. We've got daily and weekly weather forecast, question of the day, things to do, and more. WYDCTV.com, your website for everything.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. If you watched the Sunday shows, J.D. Vance was on Meet the Press. He said, we're not at war with Iran. We destroyed the Iranian nuclear program, and we did it without endangering the lives of American pilots. That's an incredible thing. We do not want war with Iran. We actually want peace, but we want peace in the context of them not having a nuclear weapons program. And that's exactly what the president accomplished last night. There's a lot. J.D. Vance was also on This Week. Rubio was on Face the Nation and on Sunday Morning Futures. If you would like to comment on those, if you happen to catch them, I'd love to hear from you. Again, we're not just going to talk about Iran this morning, but needless to say, it is a major, major topic. We may steer away from it in the next hour at the top and then get back into it, as we sometimes do with major stories. One thing we learned, that Trump was not too happy with Representative Thomas Massie, Classy Thomas Massie, the libertarian-leaning representative. Trump, who has long been annoyed by Massie in the past on a host of issues, ripped him as a pathetic loser. He said Massie is weak, ineffective, and votes no on virtually everything put before him. Rand Paul Jr., no matter how good something may be. Massie should drop his fake act and start putting America first, but he doesn't know how to get there. He doesn't have a clue. MAGA should drop this pathetic loser, Tom Massey, like the plague. The good news is that we have a wonderful American patriot running against him in the Republican primary, and I'll be out in Kentucky campaigning really hard. So this had to do with Massey getting together, being upset about the War Powers Resolution to rein in Trump's ability to strike Iran, and his opposition to the Big Beautiful Bill. Massey saying on CBS's Face the Nation, I represent part of the coalition that elected President Trump. We were tired of endless wars in the Middle East and tired of wars in Eastern Europe. They should have called us all back. And frankly, we should have debated this War Powers Resolution that Ro Khanna and I offered. Instead of staying on vacation and doing fundraisers and saying, oh, well, the president's got this under control, we're going to cede our constitutional authority. So Trump did not like that very much, calling him, again, a pathetic loser and saying he will campaign against Massey. Massey is very much one of those Republicans that likes the attention that he gets when he goes against fellow Republicans. Now, he wasn't the only one that was upset and making statements. The question is, and I like the way the New York Post editorial board put this, Mamdani, who's the mayoral candidate, in second place to Cuomo, according to polls. Mamdani, Schumer, and AOC battling for the most idiotic response to Trump's Iran strikes. And it is stiff competition for the most idiotic response to Operation Midnight Hammer. New York City's far left it boy, if you will, Mr. Popular, Zohran Mamdani, is one clear leader of the pack, saying, quote, Donald Trump ran for president promising to end wars, not starting new ones. Today's unconstitutional military action represents a dark new chapter in his endless betrayals that now threaten to plunge the world deeper into chaos. Wrong on virtually every count, as the president noted Saturday night, Iran's been waging war on our country since it seized the hostages back in 1979 through its sponsorship of the 1983 barracks bombing, its provisions of IEDs to slaughter our troops in Afghanistan and Iraq, and on, and its efforts to assassinate Trump. By finishing off Tehran's nuclear program, the Prez moved decisively to end Israel's strikes on Iran by eliminating their target. And defanging the monsters who run the Islamic Republic is a blow against chaos that opens a door to a brighter future for the entire region. Naturally, Mamdani's less radical rivals for Democrat mayoral nomination felt obliged to also condemn Trump, with Andrew Cuomo whining about how Trump went about this without consulting Congress, without consulting the normal congressional officials, blah, blah, blah. Could you imagine if he consulted Congress on this? I mean, it would have been a failed mission, right? But I'll continue. That's the same approach embraced by most national Democrats, including ex-Speaker Nancy Pelosi. But I don't know if you saw that recently. Nancy Pelosi making a fortune in the stock market. Interesting how that works. We're going to get to that a little bit later on. And House and minority leaders, Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer, which is beyond pathetic, as all of them are on record praising President Barack Obama's various unilateral left Congress in the dark actions, from doing regime change in Libya by taking out Gaddafi to his multiple drone assassinations of U.S. citizens. Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez basically sits in the same camp as Mamdani, her preferred mayoral candidate, by the way, with the added claim that Trump's actions are, quote, absolutely and clearly grounds for impeachment. Yes, folks, AOC calling for impeachment of the President of the United States. In fact, the U.S. strikes were plainly legal, covered, like Obama's, by Congress, open-ended authorization for presidential force back in 2003. Resolutions that neither party has sought to repeal, even when both houses of Congress are held by the presidential opposition party. Yes, it'd be wonderful if the House and Senate were willing to do their duties in matters of war and peace, but instead they've chosen not to, and to just carp about the other team's leadership. This also means Trump has no responsibility to brief top Democrats in advance of the strikes, and that no word of the coming attacks leaked suggests he was wise to shut them out. We certainly wouldn't trust the likes of Senator Adam Schiff to put the safety of Americans headed into a war zone above his partisan desire to undermine anything and everything Donald Trump is doing. Let us not forget the international contestants in the idiot sweepstakes. U.S. Secretary General Antonio Guterres last seen thundering that Israel's strikes on Iran could ignite a fire no one can control, denounced Trump's dangerous escalation as a direct threat to international peace and security before droning on about supposed rules of international law. That is, he's still pretending Iran isn't one of the main threats to the other nation's safety, and that stopping it is somehow an escalation. Russia and China, of course, condemned the U.S. strikes, but all should note that that's literally the least they could do to support their ally, Iran. And the list goes on and on of people and their idiotic statements, but it comes as no surprise. AOC calling for the impeachment of the president. Again, none of this is surprising. Hakeem Jeffrey said the president needs to explain to the American people why this military action was undertaken. So we have some other comments, but Jonathan Turley, who we mentioned quite a bit, the legal scholar, said these members would have to argue that this is high crime and misdemeanor under Section 4 of Article 2 of the United States Constitution. However, prior presidents have used the same authority. Turley pointed to military force that has been used by Bill Clinton, Barack Obama, and others on places like Libya, Sudan, Afghanistan. Since Iran has threatened to attack the United States in response to such an operation, it could trigger a series of cascading decisions. For example, under Article 5 of the NATO Treaty, an attack on one member is an attack on all, he noted. Now, Firebrand, Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene, opposed the strikes, calling for peace. Let us join together and pray for the safety of our U.S. troops and Americans in the Middle East. Let us pray that we are not attacked by terrorists on our homeland after our border was open for the past 4 years and over 2 million gotaways come in, and that is a fair point. So Chuck Schumer also, as some have said, making a fool of himself in this, opposing the attacks. But again, no Democrats raising objections when Barack Obama did the same thing. But interesting, when Schumer used to claim to be Israel's guardian in Congress, put out a statement opposing Trump's airstrike. After a delay of several hours and long after his colleagues had reacted, Schumer issued a statement criticizing the attacks and backing legislation to limit Trump's war power. All right, we got to take a break. I see some comments coming in. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox will be right back.
When you're online, don't forget to visit our Facebook page at Big Fox News. Catch up on news from the Twin Tiers. Vote on the daily question and hear about local events. All on Facebook.com/Big Fox News.
Name something with a diamond in it.
Diamondback rattlesnake.
It's in the name. Name a low-calorie food you might make your edible underwear out of.
Salmon.
Watch it weeknights. Share it the next day.
Wild caught Norwegian teriyaki.
Share in the fun. Weeknights on Family Feud.
7 and 7:30 on Big Fox.
Fox 10 p.m. News is the first primetime local news for the Twin Tiers. Our reporters, Haley and Dante, scour the southern tier to bring you up-to-date news regarding local businesses, economics, and how national decisions impact our area. If you're not near a TV, don't worry. You can also catch our 10 p.m. news live on WYDCTV.com/livestream. Don't miss Big Fox 10 p.m. news on WYDC, on TV, or our website. The Twins' first prime-time local news. Catch weather, local and national news, events, and more with our anchors, Dante, Haley, and Ann. Find out what's happening in your community and more by watching Big Fox 10 p.m. news on W.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Don't forget, coming up in the next hour, right around 7:20, we'll be talking with Drenald Bakari. He is running for Steuben County Legislature in the district that encompasses Irwin, and that will be wrapping up our Irwin discussions the day before primary day. Tomorrow is primary day. 3 people running in Irwin. Go to Steuben County's website, the Board of Elections, to find out if in your area there is a primary, because tomorrow is primary day, and I'm asking you all to consider, please go out and vote. Let's go to the Steuben Senior Services Fund section of our program where we read viewer comments. Mark writes in, I watched Fox Live about 12 hours yesterday, and on there they had the UN meeting. It was very interesting. Excuse me. Most of the countries said, I'm getting something in the back of my throat. Most of the countries said we did the right thing, but also they want peace, no more fighting. Yep, that's fair. Comment from a different viewer. Good morning, Frank. I grew up in a time where I was told if you didn't have anything good to say, it's best to say nothing. To say I'm not concerned would be an understatement. I have mixed feelings like I think most do. I'm just not sure it had to happen just yet. And then the shrug emoji. Thank you very much. Not shrug. I don't know if that's what you call it. The questioning emoji. Thank you very much. Democrat Representative Jim Hines on the State of the Union was asked by Casey Hunt, when we look at what the administration says that they have accomplished here, that they have set the program back significantly, that these strikes were successful, do you think the world is a safer place this morning than it was yesterday? Hines said, Casey, stop. Look, that's insane. That's insane. You don't need to be an intelligent professional to know that we have no idea whether these strikes were successful. Now, if what we're looking at is a big boom and a large hole in the ground, I have very little doubt that our bunker busters did a big boom and a very large hole in the ground. So condescending, so smug. They wonder why they lost in November. Whatever you think about the topic he's discussing, just the first of all, the way he words it. But if you're looking for is a big boom and a large hole in the ground, I have very little doubt that our bunker buster did a big boom and a very large hole in the ground. But we don't know, sitting right here now, whether the highly enriched uranium was in the Fordo facility or the other facilities. We have no word. Or we have no idea, excuse me. In the coming weeks, we will develop a more specific idea, but we have no idea in the world right now whether these strikes were in any way successful. Anybody who says that they have an idea whatsoever about whether these raids did anything other than create a big boom, so that was he thought he was really hitting home with that. And a lot of dust has no idea what they're talking about. So smug and condescending. Now, the New York Times was criticized. Listen to this. This is the New York Times. This gives you a look inside the media. The U.S. has officially joined Israel battling against nuclear power, right? The nuclear power Iran. And the New York Times was ready and waiting to wag a woke finger in the direction of Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth. In a Sunday news conference, Hegseth heaped praise on President Trump and the military campaign that saw 6 bunker buster bombs dropped. Quote, the operation President Trump planned was bold and it was brilliant, showing the world that American deterrence is back. Warning, when the president speaks, the world should listen, and the U.S. military, we can back it up. At one point, Hegseth casually called the B-2 pilots who dropped the 15-ton bombs on targets in Iran, quote, our boys on those bombers. So he said, our boys on those bombers was instantly criticized by the New York Times. New York Times Pentagon reporter John Ishmay said in the briefing, Hegseth referred to B-2 pilots as our boys on those bombers. Yeah, both men and women have been trained to fly them. Not making this up. That's the New York Times. Now, I don't know the gender of the pilots, but that's not the point. For the New York Times to take away from what happened on Saturday and hear Pete Hegseth saying the boys and the bombers and say, well, you know, men and women have been trained to be pilots. One Twitter user saying, this is why people use the New York Times to line their bird cages. Another saying, yes, let's make sure to be politically correct at this serious time. One Twitter user saying, what an idiot. We women know exactly what Pete Hegseth meant. It's not clear whether any women took part in the 37-hour B-2 bomber raid. The New York Times making sure they prove yet again that they are woke and politically correct. Let's take a short break, and then we're going to wrap up hour number 1. Stay with us.
When you're online, don't forget to visit our Facebook page at Big Fox News. Catch up on news from the Twin Tiers. Vote on the daily question and hear about local events. All on Facebook.com/Big Fox News.
Welcome back to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom. And how can we help like that in our small businesses, not to sound cliche, but are the backbone of our community? Let's talk about we. Thanks, as always, to you, the viewers, for sending in your texts and your voicemails. Now we go to a comment. This is from John in Elmira. Make sure to catch Frankly Speaking only on AM Big Fox News WYDC or visit our website at WYDCTV.com.
Catch Twins local news and weather by visiting WYDCTV.com. We've got daily and weekly weather forecast, question of the day, things to do, and more. WYDCTV.com, your website for everything Twin Tiers local.
If you or a loved one regularly used hair relaxers or straighteners and were diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, you may be entitled to significant financial compensation.
I've used hair relaxers for years. I had no idea they could cause cancer.
Chemical hair relaxers and straighteners have been linked to serious conditions, including several types of cancer. If you used hair relaxers and have been diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, call us now. There's no fee unless we win your case. Call today.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. Wrapping up hour number one, we were just laughing at the New York Times, who made sure, after Pete Hegseth discussed our boys in the bombers dropping the bunker busters, making sure, the New York Times making sure you know that men and women are trained as pilots. Well, the White House Press Secretary Karen Leavitt also demanded that CNN retract the story. So it's not just New York Times. CNN retract a story on Sunday that claimed Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer and House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries were not briefed on President Trump's strike on Iran. The White House announced the success of the attack on Saturday. CNN reported that House Speaker Mike Johnson and Senate Majority Leader John Thune, both Republicans, were briefed on the strikes ahead of time, with Schumer and Jeffries, both Democrats, receiving notification only before the public announcement and well after the attack. This is fake news, said Carolyn Leavitt. The White House made bipartisan courtesy calls to congressional leadership and spoke to Chuck Schumer before the strike. Representative Jeffries could not be reached until after, but he was briefed. CNN, please retract. Now, CNN has not responded to comment. Another disastrous take on the strike. LA's Sheriff's Department. Now, you would think they have bigger fish to fry. LA Sheriff's Department has deleted a post calling the U.S. airstrikes on Iran's nuclear sites tragic. Our hearts go out to the victims and families impacted by the recent bombings in Iran. While this tragic event happened overseas, the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department is closely monitoring the situation alongside our local, state, and federal partners. The post sparked immediate outrage and was allegedly updated to exclude the part sending condolences to the victims and families and calling the U.S. airstrike tragic. Why do they even feel the need, as the riots are still ongoing, costing taxpayers, I think I read today, about $30 million. And we'll talk about that in a little bit, the riots. They felt the need to weigh in on international affairs. Now, we have some opinion pieces on this. I do want to move along at some point. We may start the next hour moving along after I make a couple comments, one comment specifically about Iran, and then we're going to move along. We're going to hear from Drenald Bilkari. He's coming up in the right around 7:20 segment. So stay with us. Hour number one in the books. Hard to believe. Hour number two, mere moments away. Stay with us.
You don't have time to go to the gym? The health club is not an option? Come to Hesselson today and see why swim spas and fitness systems can fit into anyone's yard and budget. 12-foot, 14-foot, 15-foot, 18-foot dual temperature hot tubs and swim spas are all on display in Hesselson's indoor and outdoor showroom. Try before you buy. 0% interest-free financing options are available on every Hesselson swim spa. Swim and exercise year-round and start making every day better. After 70 years, it's still fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
Are you having hearing your TV or listening to conversations in loud spaces? Then it might be time to consider Nano hearing aids. Don't mistake Nanos for cheap amplifiers. Nanos are FDA-registered OTC hearing aids, which means no more having to go to a doctor and spend thousands. Nano hearing aids are now offering $100 off through this special TV offer. Order right now and get 2 CIC rechargeable hearing aids for only $297. And if you're not happy, return them for a full refund.
Fox 10 p.m. News is the first primetime local news for the Twin Tiers. Our reporters, Haley and Dante, scour the southern tier to bring you up-to-date news regarding local businesses, economics, and how national decisions impact our area. If you're not near a TV, don't worry. You can also catch our 10 p.m. news live on WYDCTV.com/livestream.
It's our number 2 of Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox. I am your host, Frank Acom. We are broadcasting live and proudly from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. Let's go to the Steuben Senior Services Fund section of our program where we read viewer comments. This viewer writes in, "Sorry, Ukraine, the Democrats have moved on. Putin was fooled by Trump and has lost the foothold in the Middle East that Biden gave them when he invited them into Syria. Trump is destroying Iran's ability to send drones to Russia. Soon, Trump will turn back to Ukraine after weakening Russian position to get the peace deal." Thank you very much. The New York Post said, "Finally, a president who understands peace through strength just made the world safer. President Trump's order to obliterate Iranian nuclear weapon sites just made the whole world a lot safer, not only because he kept a manacle, I don't think I'm saying that right, regime from acquiring nukes, but because other nations must now think twice before defying the United States." Pete Hegseth said, American deterrence is back. When this president speaks, the world should listen because the U.S. military can back it up. And indeed, U.S. military might is a thing to behold. What a refreshing change from the Obama and Biden years. Time and again, President Joe Biden issued a toothless, finger-wagging don't. Remember that? Almost becoming a joke, don't. Only for his targets to laugh and do as they pleased anyway, knowing that American adversaries would face no real consequences. Don't. Biden threatened any hostile actor thinking about attacking Israel after Hamas's October 7, 2023 attack. Hezbollah and the Houthis struck the Jewish state anyway. Last year, he told Iran, don't, after a threat to attack Israel. Iran responded by launching hundreds of missiles at Israeli targets. Biden warned Vladimir Putin of severe consequences for invading Ukraine. Putin went ahead. Even after Iranian-backed militants killed 3 U.S. soldiers and injured 30 others in Jordan last year, Biden's response was all but non-existent. Joe earned the world's contempt his first year in office with his disastrous Afghan withdrawal and kept on earning it by repeatedly hesitating in getting Ukraine the arms it needed to do more than slow the Russian onslaught. President Barack Obama was no better. Recall the red line in Syria for their use of chemical weapons. When Bashar al-Assad used them anyway, Obama set off an elaborate dance to not follow through, even facilitating Moscow's return to being a Mideast player when Putin offered face-saving cover for Barack Obama's backdown. Obama's answer to Iran's nukes was to hand the regime billions in exchange for promises to delay gaining them, a deal Tehran quickly violated. The Obama crew confused America's enemies with its friends. Biden was just confused, but each opened the door to chaos after bumbling that led to the rise of ISIS and Putin's first grab of Ukrainian territory on Obama's watch, when the latest Ukraine war plus the Middle East in flames after Joe took over. Yes, Trump prefers diplomacy even to end Iran's nuclear ambitions, but he also warned that no deal meant bombing the likes of which they have never seen before, and now has proved that his words aren't empty threats. And just as Putin, China's Xi Jinping, and other malign actors saw Biden's Afghan withdrawal as a U.S. retreat and a license for belligerence, they heard the rumble of Trump's massive bunker buster bomb Saturday and the message they sent about America's new resolve. It's true that Trump strongly prefers peace and is reluctant to use military power, but he's now proved beyond a doubt that he will use it and to overwhelming effect when necessary. Plus, U.S. deception and strategic misdirection in advance of the strikes now make it clear that Trump's trademark ambiguity is reason for the other guys to worry about what he might do. America is well served by that unpredictability, even as it was ill served by Obama and Biden's predictable weakness. Bombing Iran's nuke sites won't guarantee better behavior from U.S. adversaries, but the Putins and Xis of the world are now on notice that they move at high risk of paying a far greater cost than they can afford. It's the very definition of deterrence. Peace through strength makes the world safer. Thank goodness the nation has a president who gets it. Now, there are some negative headlines, of course. That should come as no surprise in today's media world. We were talking about the New York Times criticizing Pete Hegseth for saying the boys and the bombers, saying that men and women can be pilots too. We can talk about that. Some saying it's premature to celebrate. I do want to move on because we've been talking about Iran for the full hour, but we will come back to it, or we'll read your comments if there's anything you'd like to mention. What is your thoughts? What were your thoughts when you first heard the announcement on Saturday? What is your thoughts this morning after hearing maybe Rubio or Vance on the Sunday shows or hearing the statements made by President Trump? Your thoughts on that. But let's move on to some other topics that I think are important to get to. Some of that focus is on the Democrat Party and questions surrounding kind of the chaos behind the scenes. But first, I know this has been a topic that people have text to me numerous times saying, who's going to pay for all the riots that we saw in the streets of LA? Who's going to pay for that destruction? Well, the anti-ICE protests in Los Angeles will cost the taxpayers of Los Angeles a whopping $32 million, according to newly released data. That's the cost of police response, emergency services cleanup, and public property damage resulting from federal immigration protests that have rattled the city. That's according to City Comptroller Kenneth Mejia. Some $29.5 million of the cost came from the LAPD's response to protests, quote, including citywide tactical alert costs. Sharing a graphic to the taxpayers. Another $1.4 million will be used for cleanup and public property damage. The remainder of the money includes funds set aside for the fire department, street services, general service, and the Public Works Board. So again, the anti-ICE protest to cost LA taxpayers over $30 million. Now, speaking of anti-ICE protests, we talk about the Democrat Party and their position on this. But we had mentioned last week, Whoopi Goldberg had made a statement on The View, essentially saying that certain Americans have it worse here than Iranian citizens have it in Iran. And it got a lot of attention, a lot of criticism. Bill Maher, on his program Real Time, was with Representative Wesley Hunt, a Republican from Texas. They both, now Bill Maher, of course, a far leftist, both hammered Whoopi Goldberg and The View after the co-host claimed that life for black Americans is equivalent to women living under Iran's oppressive, theocratic regime. Bill Maher claimed that Democrats took a step, quote, back to sanity after the New York Times took a more sensible, liberal, not crazy woke position on transgender issues. He then asserted that the second step Democrats should take is to do something about The View after Goldberg's comments comparing life for black Americans to living under Iran's brutal regime. I would say that you've got to be careful, like Bill Maher saying, well, took a step back to sanity with that New York Times piece, kind of taking a different position on transgender issues. But then you see the New York Times wokely correcting what Pete Hegseth had to say when Pete Hegseth said the boys and the bombers, saying, but women can be pilots too. But I'll continue. Goldberg sparked backlash last week when her and her fellow co-host, Alyssa Farah Griffin, when they had that conversation, Griffin elaborated on the many human rights violations perpetrated by the Ayatollah's regime in Iran, including execution of gay people and imprisonment of women who go outside with their hair uncovered. Let's not do that, said Whoopi, because if we start with that, we have been known in this country to tie gay folks to the car. Listen, I'm sorry, they used to just keep hanging black people. Now, Hunt shot down Whoopi's assessment of life in America for black people, noting the success she's found in the United States as a black, that's the Representative Hunt. noting the success he's found in the United States as a black man. He said, my district in this great state of Texas is actually a white majority district that President Trump would have won by 25 points. As I said, I'm a direct descendant of a slave. My great-great-grandfather was born on Rosedown Plantation. I'm literally being judged not by the color of my skin, but by the content of my character. That's the progress because, like a lot of white people had to vote for me, a lot. So I don't ever want to hear Whoopi Goldberg's conversation about how it's worse to be black in America right now. The Texas congressman also pointed out that his father, who grew up under Jim Crow, is now the father of a United States congressman in a white majority district who ran as a Republican. That's America. CNN contributor Paul Begala brought up the fact that America has a holiday to celebrate the freedom of black Americans from slavery, Juneteenth, but questioned why President Trump doesn't want to honor the occasion. That's when Representative Hunt said, I don't want it. I don't want Black History Month. I don't want these days to make everybody feel special. I'm an 80s baby. Everybody's too sensitive anyway. We're all American anyway. So questioning, maybe saying we've got to get rid of the View if you want any success as a Democrat. And we learned that the Democratic National Committee chair is under fire for all this turmoil. Ken Martin, he's the one that started to, it sounded like he was crying in that leaked audio, that he was upset that David Hogg was getting more attention than him, that David Hogg was better known than he was, even saying, and I'm paraphrasing, that no one even knows who I am, nearly weeping. Pressure is hitting Ken Martin as the growing turmoil in the party's ranks. We've heard about them being broke, the DNC, the Democratic National Committee. They're being broke. There's chaos behind the scenes. The committee is plagued by party infighting that has spilled out into the open in recent weeks. Last week, two influential union heads, American Federation of Teachers President Randy Weingarten and American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees President Lee Saunders, stepped down from their posts at the committee. Meanwhile, former Vice Chair David Hogg announced he would not run for his post again. The developments have painted a picture of weakness, barring Democrats from fully uniting behind Trump. Some critics argue the issues could be traced back to Martin, but others insist it's a reflection of the Democrat ecosystem as a whole. Yeah, I think it really is an ecosystem as a whole. I mean, I don't know how good of a job Ken Martin is doing, but they have struggled to get their messaging because you have the very, very far left has really taken over the message. That's why they have demanded more of the quote-unquote resistance, right? And that's why they're so happy with Cory Booker for speaking for 25 hours and 5 minutes, but accomplishing nothing. So a lot of hot air with nothing accomplished, which seems to be the Democrat platform, specifically during the resistance against Trump. Quote, Ken Martin is stepping into a really difficult situation right now, and I would say he was elected and they handed him a mop and a bucket, said Brian Lemick, a Democrat strategist. Martin assumed his position in the top role at the DNC in February after defeating Ben Wickler. We don't need to go through all this, but this is about the fourth or fifth article that we've had about the chaos behind the scenes. Even the New York Times reporting on it last week, but the chaos behind the scenes at the Democratic National Committee, and specifically criticizing the new chair, Ken Martin. He is taking a lot of heat. Perhaps Democrats don't believe he is doing enough. We've got a couple other things about the Democrat Party. I see a lot of comments coming in. Don't forget, coming up in about 8 minutes, we're going to hear from Drenald Belkari. He is running in that primary for Steuben County Legislator. That's in District 12, which encompasses Irwin. So if you are a resident of Irwin, please tune in. Or if you know someone that's a resident of Irwin, please give them a call and let them know. We have posted all of our interviews online on WYDCTV.com. So if you want to learn about your candidates before you go into the primary booth tomorrow, yes, it is tomorrow. I know it's going to be hot. I'm asking you to not think about that. Bring a fan. There won't be the lines that you saw with the school budget. Get in and get out, but please vote in the primaries, because at the end of the day, it's just like Joe Sempolinski said on Friday, the numbers are so low when it comes to primary turnout. Don't be one of the people that stays home. Have a voice in what's happening at the Steuben County legislature, in the legislature. Have a say, because as we've mentioned, there's a lot of primaries this year. We'll read on tomorrow's program which areas are affected by it in Steuben County. And I'll try to get Chemung as well, but please get out and vote tomorrow. All right, let's take that break. A few more things here about the Democrat Party. We got a couple things here about Trump, and then we'll get back to Iran. Your thoughts when we come back. This is Frankly Speaking on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
It's a brand new 2025 Chevy Equinox 1LT all-wheel drive with GLE Loyalty or Conquest bonus for only $359 a month for 36 months. Make car buying simple. Drive your deal at Simmons Rockwell Chevrolet in Bath.
Stay tuned to find out how you can get the latest in diabetes technology at little or no cost from US Med. Avoid complications like nerve damage, kidney failure, eye and cardiovascular problems. US Med's CGM systems offer round-the-clock glucose monitoring in real time, provide alerts, and help users avoid painful finger sticks. US Med works with most insurers, Medicare, and offers a money-back guarantee. Call 800-681-3147.
Welcome back to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom. And how can we help like that in our small businesses, not to sound cliche, but are the backbone of our community? Let's talk about thanks, as always, to you, the viewers, for sending in your texts and your voicemails. Now we go to a comment. This is from John in Elmira. Make sure to catch Frankly Speaking only on AM Big Fox News WYDC or visit our website at WYDCTV.com.
The Twin Tiers first prime time local news. Catch weather, local and national news, events, and more with our anchors, Dante, Haley, and Ann. Find out what's happening in your community and more by watching Big Fox 10 p.m. News on WYDC.
Attention, Elmeron may lead to vision loss.
If you have suffered vision problems after taking Elmeron to treat bladder pain, call the Hearn Law Firm. Elmeron may be responsible for your vision problems, and you may deserve compensation for your injuries.
If you took Elmeron and now have vision problems, call the Hearn Law Firm at 888-308-3866 right now. You could find out if you qualify in less than 2 minutes. Call 888-308-3866 for your free case review.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. We're going to read some viewer comments. I see one came in right as I got back on the air. We will read that. Don't think I'm skipping anybody. I just reading the ones that I was able to proofread before we went on the air. This section of our program brought to you by Steuben Senior Services. Steuben Senior Services Fund, empowering seniors to age at home. This viewer writes in, will anyone who cares what AOC has to say, please raise your hand. Yeah, she does get a kind of a she gets a little bit too much coverage, maybe more than you could say she deserves. Though, if you look at many Democrats, and if you look at the polls, she is considered by many to be the face of the Democratic Party. So apparently there are some people that listen to AOC. Ken writes in, let's recap a couple of Trump's accomplishments in the first 150 days and the Democrat response to these things. So first up, Trump, the border is closed. The Democrat response, he's deporting citizens without due process. Next, Trump stopped billions of dollars of fraud and abuse. Democrats' response, he's taking money away from the sick and elderly. You're exactly right, Ken. They always push that. We've got a piece later on that says that by a representative saying we're not taking away Medicaid. But it's so predictable. Next up, Trump working to codify tax breaks for the middle class with a big, beautiful bill. Democrats' response, he's lining the pockets of his billionaire friends. You're spot on all these so far, Ken. Next up, Trump working with tariffs to equalize the world's trade with the U.S. and to bring jobs back to America. Democrats' response, he's creating a worldwide recession. And finally, Trump, he eliminated the nuclear threat to the world from Iran. The Democrats' response, he's usurping Congress and starting World War III. So does anyone see a pattern in the legacy media and the Democrats' response to Trump's achievements? Thank you very much, Ken, for putting that in such a succinct way. You are exactly spot on. Now, James Rosen, because we're talking about the chaos in the Democrat Party, and James Rosen writes, 1 year ago this month, attendees packed the 7,100 seats inside the Peacock Theater in L.A. to watch a parade of A-list celebrities, George Clooney, Julia Roberts, Barbara Streisand, unite in a common goal to raise more money for President Biden's re-election campaign than had ever been tallied for a single fundraising event. By that standard, the evening was a smashing success. Over $30 million, a record, was raised. The Associated Press reporting at the time how important the event was to his re-election bid could be seen in Biden's decision to fly through the night across 9 time zones from the G7 summit in southern Italy to Southern California to attend. Nothing was left to chance. Outside the Peacock, riot police ringed the Gaza protesters. Inside, the biggest weapon was rolled out. Former President Barack Obama appeared on stage with his old number 2. The pair of presidents interviewed by ABC late-night host Jimmy Kimmel. Their reoccurring theme, a second Trump presidency would ruin America. Obama called the current moment a byproduct of 2016 when he said a whole bunch of folks sat out. Hopefully we have learned our lesson because these elections matter. When Roe v. Wade came up and the audience hissed, Obama scolded them, don't hiss, vote. Still sharp, still charming. The familiar smile still beguiling. The 44th president deployed all his gifts to urge the high rollers at the Peacock and by extension all Americans to support Biden with money and votes. The most precious commodities a civic-minded American can be asked to invest. The only problem was Biden, at the event's end, as he and Obama waved goodbye with Kimmel, the incumbent became catatonic. Just as he had 5 days earlier at a Juneteenth concert at the White House, his whole body froze as if immobilized by a science fiction ray gun. Obama had to guide his friend gently but firmly off the stage. As the Washington Post later reported, the commander-in-chief the keeper of the nuclear option appeared slow, frail. Even with Kimmel posing softball questions and Obama frequently interjecting to provide support, Biden struggled to explain key parts of his campaign platform, with attendees saying that the president frequently stumbled over his remarks, trailed off, or was simply confusing. And why do I keep this up? Because we know the whole story. James Rosen said, Obama's historic legacy won't rest entirely on the arc and perceptions of his presidency. His actions since 2017 matter too. And in covering for Biden for so long, Obama displayed a contempt for our democracy and his own party, unbefitting of a 2-term president. Jimmy Carter's post-presidency helped lift his standard in history. For Barack Obama, at least so far, the narrative runs in the other direction. So Hollywood and Obama should be judged for covering up Joe Biden's frailty. We've got some other Democrat updates, but coming up next, Drenald Bakari, running for Steuben County legislator in the district that encompasses Irwin. So if you are in Irwin or you know someone in Irwin, give them a call because tomorrow is primary day. So we are going to hear from Drenald when we come back. Stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
In today's world, securing your business is more important than ever. Protected with Boss Security's state-of-the-art alarm systems. When seconds matter, trust the experts. Boss Security is proud to safeguard local businesses across the Twin Tiers. Contact Boss Security today.
Welcome back to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom. And how can we help like that in our small businesses, not to sound cliche, but are the backbone of our community? Let's talk about thanks, as always, to you, the viewers, for sending in your texts and your voicemails. Now we go to a comment. This is from John in Elmira. Make sure to catch Frankly Speaking only on AM Big Fox News WYDC or visit our website at WYDCTV.com.
Fox 10 p.m. News is the first primetime local news for the Twin Tiers. Our reporters, Haley and Dante, scour the southern tier to bring you up-to-date news regarding local businesses, economics, and how national decisions impact our area. If you're not near a TV, don't worry. You can also catch our 10 p.m. news live on WYDCTV.com/livestream. Don't miss Big Fox 10 p.m. news on WYDC, on TV, or our website.
Catch Twins local news and weather by visiting WYDCTV.com. We've got daily and weekly weather forecast, question of the day, things to do, and more. WYDCTV.com, your website for everything Twin Tiers local. Stay up to date on Twin Tiers local news by visiting WYDCTV.com. We've got it all on our website, daily and weekly weather forecast, question of the day, things to do, and more. Follow us today at Big Fox News on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and X. WYDCTV.com, your website for everything Twin Tiers local.
Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. Welcome back to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom, and we are broadcasting from the Hesselson studio, and this is the Steuben County Office for the Aging section of our program, where we do interviews. And back in the studio, Janal, welcome.
Thank you, Frank.
Full disclaimer. Now you're running, as you say, in Irwin. Full disclaimer. I know I've done this every single time, but I do live in Irwin. I'm on the Irwin Town Board, so we try to keep these all three as neutral as possible. Ask very similar questions, but this one's a little bit different. But I wanted to congratulate you, more specifically your daughter. I saw her name. We posted the photo on the show Monday, winning the state championship.
Yes, thank you. That was great.
Yeah.
Great. I was at the state championship in Syracuse. And when I'm not running and not working, yes, I'm a rugby dad. So,
well, that's nice. And she's going D1, right?
She is going to D1 Queens University in North Carolina. Wow. So we're very, very excited.
Yeah.
But yeah, very, very proud of her. It was great.
And the Corning Rugby Club defeated Orchard Park 29-10. And isn't Orchard Park their rival?
That is their rival.
Okay.
They last year. They took the championships. The year before that, we took it from them. So,
back and forth.
Back and forth. But yeah, it was a great game.
So you guys have the rubber match. Well, let's move on here. Tell us a little bit. I know you were on the program a month ago or so. Tell us a little bit about your background for people that haven't had the opportunity to meet you.
Yes. Frank, I came to this country 2 weeks after 9/11 with no high school education, $300 in my pocket, and a big dream. My first job was grape picking in the vineyards of Hammondsport. Now, to backtrack a little bit, I was born in Albania during Reagan's first administration, and
you don't like to admit which administration it was.
It was the first one.
Okay.
During first term. So I was born in Albania. Albania at that time was a communist country. Toward the end, late 80s, I would say.
Okay.
I recall one election there, the only election really that I remember that supposedly people voted, but there was only one choice. And I think that left an impression on me, which I didn't realize until later on in my years. But fast forward a few years, I met my wife there, my wife Jean. She came to Albania to help out with the Kosovo crisis at the time. It was late 99. We met in 2000. One thing led to another. She was my English teacher. We got married in 2001, and I immigrated to the United States roughly 2 weeks after 9/11 with a marriage visa.
Wow. And you mentioned you started with no high school education. And now to kind of bring it full circle, bookends, what do you do currently?
So I earned my GED. I started at Corning Community College. I finished my bachelor's at Buffalo, and then my law school in Chicago. So I'm an attorney by profession, by trade.
Why? And you're obviously busy. You're a rugby dad. you are a lawyer. Why did you decide to run for Steuben County Legislator?
I decided to run because I didn't. In my view, I thought the people of Irwin were not properly represented, and again, limited background in a country where the elections were meaningless. I believe that people should have the freedom of choice to elect their leaders, and that is one of the great things that I love about this country, that we do have that freedom of choice. And so that was one of the reasons. I think being represented properly is a strong belief of mine.
Now, what are you looking at as, maybe we could call it your platform or goals that you're looking at if you are elected to the legislature?
My platform, my goals are basically to be accessible to the people. That is how I ran my campaign.
Okay.
And to take issues that people bring to me to the county legislature to try to solve their problems. I have certain my beliefs are that I believe in a small limited government that truly represents the people. I believe in low taxes, but certainly being open to and taking any issues that are brought to me to the county legislature is certainly my goal.
What issues do you see that you think you'll be forced to face in a way going on in Steuben County? If you're in the legislature, what are some of the issues you think you'll face?
Well, one of the things that I see, it's flooding.
Oh yeah.
That is a big issue, although not an issue in Irwin.
Right.
It is certainly a big issue in Steuben County, Addison, Campbell, our neighbors, and so to me, finding a way to bring aid to those families would be something.
Yes, I guess I can jump ahead. That was my question. I was on flooding. Everybody does this. But yes, flooding has become a major issue, and it's not going to go away anytime soon. And obviously, Steuben County is large. You would be representing the Irwin section, but at the same time, it's something we have to deal with because it's costing taxpayers. It's destroying people's businesses and homes. Something needs to be done.
Right. I agree, and yeah, that if there is a way to bring aid to those families countywide, that would be something I would work on.
The other two major issues when people think Steuben County, they think of recently the flooding, and of course they think of the sheriff and the county going. Well, it's biased to say after, but taking away the identification of the sheriff. What is your thoughts on that?
Frank, my thoughts on that are simple. What it was done is certainly, it should not have been done. You have an elected official that was duly elected by the whole countywide. Not only that, was also reelected countywide, and the legislature trying to strip him of that liability certainly should not have happened. I'm a strong supporter of the sheriff. That vote shouldn't have happened. What that has done is essentially cost the county somewhere around $250,000 for zero gain. And it only has drawn bad publicity to Steuben County for the absolutely wrong reasons. So yeah, it shouldn't have happened. I'm very much a strong supporter of our sheriff and law enforcement in general, but as a general principle, you cannot try to undermine a duly elected official. Another branch should not be able to undermine another branch of the government.
Now, last time we spoke, I think petition season had just finished. You went through that process, the fun of the petitions. What has it looked like? What does your campaign look like to today? And obviously Tuesday is the vote, but what does your campaign look like?
So yeah, my campaign again was focused on three main levels, I guess, but the major focus being accessibility to the voters. So to that end, it was a combination of knocking on doors, sending out flyers, and finally holding two Meet the Candidate events.
Okay.
Those Meet the Candidates were done, one in May 24th, and one on June 8th. Both of them were at the Kinsella Park on Canada Road here in Irwin. So both of them were very successful. I enjoyed talking to people that showed up, so it was great. But again, it went with my belief that I am there to be accessible, and if you have a question for me, bring it up, and I'll take it. I'll take it up.
And that's going to lead into another question in a second, but where's the best place for people to contact you? You have a Facebook page, correct?
Yes, I have a Facebook page. There's my email as well, so drinalbulchari@gmail.com.
Okay.
So if you have a question, reach out.
And you didn't mention this, but I have to ask, how did Colonial Days go?
The Colonial Day, it went great.
Oh, good.
I had so much fun. I guess at some point it was literal running.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
I would be out, and I enjoyed it. I was shaking people's hand and like, hey, and then I would notice that the float would be a little bit ahead, so I would just be running.
Yeah.
And so some people would make comment, hey, you got to run for real. So It was fun. In fact, during the colonial, before we set up, I did meet an individual who was also in the Colonial Day parade. But then he goes, "Are you running for the county legislature?" I said, "Yes, I am." He says, "Well, if you win, I'd like to talk to you." And I said, "Well, I'll tell you what. If I win, I'll sit down with you and listen to your issues." And then so I took his card.
That's what it's all about.
It is all about.
Did you give away a lot of candy?
I did. I did give. We gave away 3 bags of candy, and by the time we got close to the end, I think we ran out of candy, which I didn't expect. So that means there was a great turnout, and
well, great.
It was actually a great time. It was supposed to be rainy. It really wasn't. It turned out to be a great day.
When you're out campaigning, you had the candidate meet and greets and everything that you've been doing. What do you find the voters are saying to you the most? What are the biggest issues that Steuben County is facing?
The voters, certainly the issue of the sheriff is one. People have paid attention to the issue of the sheriff, and you get a lot of feedback on that. So I gave them where I stand on it. Other issues. Sometimes they try to take things at what's going on at the federal level, which I always try to bring it down. And since we're focusing on, I'm focusing at the local level at this point.
Sure.
But they want their government to represent them. That is the bottom line. They want to have somebody that hears their voice and then just takes their concerns at the county level. That's what I hear from them.
So we're coming up on a primary day. It's on Tuesday, so tomorrow. What can people do to help? It's kind of late to go out because you're going to be still knocking on doors, I'm sure, but it's a little late to just get involved in your campaign, but maybe help or find out more for the future.
Certainly people can help by spreading, I guess, the news around. You can never. Turnout is going to be big. I mean, this is an important election.
Well, it's going to be big, but not huge. I mean, it's going to come down. It's going to be important. We'll put it that way.
That's the better word. That is exactly what I meant to be by the word big. Yes, the turnout is going to be the most important factor. So certainly people can help to spread the news, to turn out and exercise this great privilege that we have to vote.
And I actually was talking to some of them in Joe Sempolinski on Friday's show, and we got talking because he's the chair of the Steuben County Republican Committee, and we got talking on the air about the numbers and how people will say, "Well, my vote doesn't count." Baloney, but it extra counts tomorrow on Tuesday because percentage-wise, your vote is very, very important on primary day.
Yes, the vote absolutely counts. Voting is a fundamental right. It's a very important right, and that is how we make our choices known. That's how we elect our leaders, and it is one of those privileges to live in this country that you can still have your vote to have that meaningful, that much of a meaningful of an impact. So yes, absolutely the vote counts. Please go out and vote.
All right, final question of the primary season. What do you say to voters before they vote tomorrow?
Please get out and vote. This is an important election. It's going to depend on your turnout. Exercise your fundamental right and vote.
Dernald, thanks for being on the program these 2 times. I really appreciate it. Best of luck tomorrow.
Thank you, Frank. Thank you for having me.
Of course. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking. Stay with us.
Need a gift for a grad, for dad, or yourself? This month, GCP has incredible savings on Jim Beam Bourbon and Jim Beam flavors. A 1-liter bottle, normally $19.99, is just $17.99. With $4 mail-in rebate, your final cost is $13.99. 750 milliliter La Marca Prosecco, normally $17.99, is now on sale for $14.99. Perfect for celebrating any occasion. GCP Discount Liquors and Wines and Horseheads, the best in service, selection, and price.
Learning about elder abuse is more important than ever before. Financial scams, neglect, and physical abuse of our seniors are happening every day. Find the right solutions by talking and reaching out to our seniors. If you suspect abuse, call Steuben County Office for the Aging at 607-664-2298 or SteubenCountyNY.gov/235. Brought to you by the Steuben County Office for the Aging.
Welcome back to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom. And how can we help like that in our small businesses, not to sound cliche, but are the backbone of our community? Let's talk about thanks, as always, to you, the viewers, for sending in your texts and your voicemails. Now we go to a comment. This is from John in Elmira. Make sure to catch Frankly Speaking only on AM Big Fox News WYDC or visit our website at WYDCTV.com.
If you are one regularly used hair relaxers or straighteners and were diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, you may be entitled to significant financial compensation.
I've used hair relaxers for years. I had no idea they could cause cancer.
Chemical hair relaxers and straighteners have been linked to serious conditions, including several types of cancer. If you used hair relaxers and have been diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, call us now. There's no fee unless we win your case. Call today.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back. I want to thank Drenald Bakari for being on the program. He had messaged me. We recorded each of the candidates for Irwin. We recorded them the day before they would be broadcast. So Drenald actually recorded on Friday. And he got home and he realized he missed a very important point in his background story. And he wanted me to make this clear to you, the viewer. He said, 20 years ago, in the summer of 2005, I became a U.S. citizen, and it was one of the proudest days of my life. So thank you to Drenald for clarifying that. He just wanted to make sure that you were made aware of that. So if you have missed any of those interviews with the candidates for Steuben County Legislator in District 12, which is Irwin, or if you know someone that's in Irwin and you want them to be the most informed as they go into the voting booth tomorrow, you can go to our YouTube page or go to WYDCTV.com to find those interviews. Drenald's will be up probably by noon today at the latest, because we want to make sure that you, as has been the goal for a long time on this program, you go in from the day one, actually, I say a long time, from day one, that you go into the booth the most well-informed. Okay, it's time for Steuben's Senior Services Fund section of our program, where we read viewer comments, and let me say, we have a lot of them. Here we go. From the viewer writing in saying, it's too bad about the Democratic Party. How's that saying go? Go woke, go broke. Then go against America's best interests, supporting the enemy, supporting anti-Semitism protests, can't stand the police, can't stand legal immigration, can't stand a military parade, burning the American flag, and showing hatred towards everything you don't agree with. And you wonder why nobody wants to give you money to fund your party? Where's the feminists protesting for women's equality in women's sports? Nope, the Democrats are on the wrong side of that one too. They're even for biological men in women's sports. But you know, if they change their ways, then they would only prove that Trump was right about everything. They won't let that happen. They would rather double down and destroy their own party before they would give in and give Trump the satisfaction that he so deserves for making America great again. Nope, the Democrats are against that too. The last thing the Democrats would want is to make America great again. Thank you very much. Comment from, my mouse froze. Comment from a different viewer. I don't see why Schumer and Jeffries have a problem with the corrective action that President Trump gave Iran. It was a mostly peaceful bombing. I like that. A mostly peaceful bombing. Very clever. Another comment, why is the DNC broke right after cuts to USAID? Interesting point. Another comment from a different viewer. Good morning, Frank. Well, good morning. Unfortunately, there are many in our society who believe that it's okay to be a bully. Demonstrators are free to tear up streets. Iran is free to hate and destroy their neighbors, and the media is free to spread news that they know is false. I guess that we don't know what to do with our time now that we don't have to spend the day gathering food and water. I guess that we don't know what to do with our time now that we don't have to spend the day gathering food and water. Thank you very much. And finally, in this segment of viewer comments, I like this one. The fastest and best 2-hour concise news show in town. Thank you, Frankly Speaking. No, thank you. Thank you, the viewer. Thank you to everybody reaching out. I have other comments that came in after I came back from break. We'll get to those And here in just a little bit. Before we take another break, Pelosi, man, we got to figure out how to trade stock like Pelosi. She raked in millions last year, and her portfolio outperformed every large hedge fund with stunning returns. Representative Nancy Pelosi raked in between $7.8 million and $42.5 million last year, meaning her estimated net worth with venture capitalist hubby Paul Pelosi could now top out at $413 million, according to new financial disclosures. The staggering sum is an eye-popping jump from 2023, when financial disclosures showed the couple's net worth topping out at a possible $370 million. Pelosi's exact net worth is not known because lawmakers are only required to disclose ranges. Wow, that's a heck of a range, isn't it? $7.8 million to $42.5 million. Market research firm Quiver Quantitative estimates a single figure based on daily stock values it tracks placed the pair's 2024 worth at $257 million, up $26 million from a year earlier. All right, I heard the corning whistle. We will take a break. I know I'm running just a little late because we talked with Gernald quite extensively. All those interviews that we've been having lately. I mentioned, I'm very proud of this, that Congressman Nick Langworthy joined us in studio. And he included our in-depth sit-down interview, exclusive in-depth sit-down interview on his newsletter. That was very nice of him. All right, so if you missed it, you can go to either the newsletter or you can look it up on WYDCTV.com or on our YouTube page. We also posted Joe Sepolinsky's interview from Friday as well. But we got to take a short break. I'll read some more viewer comments when we come back. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox, stay with us.
Hard water makes it hard to keep your home looking like the work of art you've always envisioned it would be. Culligan softeners reduce hard water buildup and your cleaning time, transforming every drop, every splash, every rinse into the fine art of a long-lasting clean. With a Culligan water softener, revel in the breathtaking beauty of your home, just the way you've always pictured it. Culligan, water you love.
What better start or end every day than relaxing in your very own Hesselson hot tub? Massage therapy, relaxation, stress reliever, pain management, soothing muscles, or just spending time with a loved one. Hot water therapy really does make every day better. Hesselson has been a part of this great community for over 70 years, still being locally owned and operated. So make the drive to Hesselson's and start making your path to a better life today. And after 70 years, it's still fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
Fox 10 p.m. News is the first primetime local news for the Twin Tiers. Our reporters, Haley and Dante, scour the southern tier to bring you up-to-date news regarding local businesses, economics, and how national decisions impact our area. If you're not near a TV, don't worry. You can also catch our 10 p.m. news live on WYDCTV.com/livestream. Don't miss Big Fox 10 p.m. news on WYDC, on TV, or our website.
Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Let's go to viewer comments, brought to you by Steuben Senior Services Fund, empowering seniors to age at home. All right, Rick writes in, good morning, Frank. Well, good morning, Rick. Donald got me this time, no taco. Wow, I can't believe he dropped the big boy bunker bombs on Iran's nuclear facilities. No doubt we need to make sure Iran doesn't get a nuclear weapon. They hate America, so no weapon, please. What if another country that also hates America lets Iran borrow some nuclear warheads? Any guesses on where they would like to send one? Now it's wait and see what they do in response. Now, when JD spoke, he said past presidents were dumb. I'm assuming Trump's past stint was included in part of that comment. Injections of Clorox and going inside the body with a light source to cure COVID, trying to overturn the 2020 presidential election, all fit into the really dumb category. Hate to open up old wounds, but my concern is always with Trump is that he never follows proper protocol. Congress was supposed to vote on this in order for Trump to have the approval to fly into Iran. There is a roadmap for Trump to follow. As I've said before, it's called the Constitution. Now, I would highlight to you that the provisions that were voted in Congress back in 2003 gives him the right to fly into Iran, just as Obama did with Syria, Libya, elsewhere. So I'm not sure if you were concerned with Obama doing it at the time, if you're concerned with that resolution that was passed. If you notice, and as we mentioned earlier in the program, even when the opposition is in the White House, Congress has never voted to repeal that because, let's face it, if he went to Congress to talk about this and say what he was going to do, there's no sense of us even doing it. I mean, the leaks would be immediate. So again, I think if you're concerned about that, that's more of an issue with that resolution back in 2003, because Trump does have a right to do that, just as much to Republicans' chagrin. Obama did in Syria, Libya, and elsewhere, I think Yemen. Continuing though with what Rick had to say, I think he just got us into another mess with a long-term conflict with Iran, something he said he wouldn't. What he said he would do is help the American people. He hasn't done that. So he does what he says he won't and doesn't do what he says he will. That's a winning strategy. We're off to a bumpy start this week. Comment from a different viewer, and thank you, Rick. Comment from a different viewer. Happy Monday. Keep cool. Well, thank you. Happy Monday. Keep cool to you as well. We've got some other comments coming in, which we'll get to in our last segment. So get those last-minute comments in. There is a report coming out on the Hill that says Kamala Harris, former vice president, hasn't made a final decision yet and is still considering all of her options on the possibility of her jumping into the race for California governor. Quote, has given her a renewed sense of excitement. The sources added that Harris is sticking to a self-imposed end-of-summer deadline in which to decide. One source explained that Harris has a lot of people in her ear telling her that it makes the most sense. Another source reportedly pushed back on the idea that the former vice president is inclined to enter the contest. While the sources caution that Harris hasn't made a final decision yet and is still considering all her options, they say she made it clear that she is not done with public service and is giving the race strong consideration. Those who have spoken to Harris about the possibility of entering the race say it was given her a renewed sense of excitement and, as one source put it, a glimmer in her eye. Also, inside, according to the Deadline, inside Gavin Newsom and Alex Padilla's media blitz of Trump. It's an exclusive. They're saying that Gavin Newsom's star is rising, the same with Alex Padilla, by being the face of the resistance, by attacking Trump at any opportunity. I think Gavin Newsom has a lot to come back from when it comes to the California wildfires, where even many in the left were turning on him, but also when it comes to the disastrous handling of the riots as well. But the Deadline presenting this as a positive, this kind of political theater. We know Alex Padilla arrested at that ICE protest or whatever, or press conference, excuse me. So this kind of a temper tantrum idea is, they believe, a winning strategy, the political theater. One last Democrat update. Cuomo, mayoral candidate Andrew Cuomo, has been putting his pedal to the metal. Cuomo's Dodge Charger muscle car was caught on camera speeding in school zones in Brooklyn on March 27th and May 2nd, after being socked with 2 speeding tickets a mere minute apart on March 28th. In total, the ex-governor has paid $365 in fines from March the 6th through May the 2nd, including the 4 speed camera tickets, a ticket for parking in a bus lane, and another for failing to feed a meter. So again, Cuomo, with his ego showing again he is above the law. Those laws don't apply to a Cuomo. All right, get your last second texts in. We'll read those when we come back. Stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
Attention, Elmeron may lead to vision loss.
If you have suffered vision problems after taking Elmeron to treat bladder pain, call the Hearn Law Firm. Elmeron may be responsible for your vision problems, and you may deserve compensation for your injuries.
If you took Elmeron and now have vision problems, call the Hearn Law Firm at 888-308-3866 right now. You could find out if you qualify in less than 2 minutes. Call 888-308-3866 for your free case review.
Learning about elder abuse is more important than ever before. Financial scams, neglect, and physical abuse of our seniors are happening every day. Find the right solutions by talking and reaching out to our seniors. If you suspect abuse, call Steuben County Office for the Aging at 607-664-2298 or SteubenCountyNY.gov/235. Brought to you by the Steuben County Office for the Aging.
Welcome back to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom. And how can we help like that in our small businesses, not to sound cliche, but are the backbone of our community? Let's talk about thanks, as always, to you, the viewers, for sending in your texts and your voicemails. Now we go to a comment. This is from John in Elmira. Make sure to catch Frankly Speaking only on AM Big Fox News WYDC or visit our website at WYDC. The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson's studio. Let's go to the Steuben Senior Services Fund section of our program where we read viewer comments. First up, Kamala raised and spent more money in a short period than any other candidate. Large amounts of money change hands, but not minds. Very nice. Almost sounds like a fortune cookie. Mark writes in, wow, the Democrat Party is going broke. I bet they will blame that on Trump. If they changed their foolish ways, they'd be better off. Thank you very much. Ken writes in, I think the Democrats' only reason for trying to stop MAGA is that they want to get back to, I don't know how I'm going to pronounce this, Madrar, making Democrats richer and richer. Thank you, Ken. And finally, what a perfect way to end viewer comments for today's edition of Frankly Speaking with this. Good morning, Frank. Well, good morning. Have a wonderful day. Love the show. Well, thank you very much. Thanks for tuning in. We appreciate that. A couple of articles here that we won't get a chance to get to, but there's a great one by Victor Davis Hanson at the New York Post, if you want to find it in the opinion section. Trump's support keeps growing while Democrats howl at the moon. And he talks about Alex Padilla deliberately wore no identification, no advance warning. He would disrupt the briefing. He barged towards the podium and got exactly what he wanted, the media moment wish of getting essentially arrested. Cory Booker with a 25-hour filibuster that did nothing. The list goes on and on. The Trump counter-revolution barrels ahead. The people cheer and Democrats keep barking at the moon. Also, Brett Guthrie has an opinion piece. Brett Guthrie is a representative from Kentucky, and he's the chairman of the House Committee on Energy and Commerce. He said, don't fall for the lies about the GOP's plan for Medicaid. We're actually strengthening it. You can find that for yourself. Also, a federal judge denied detention for the alleged MS-13 gang member Kilmar Abrego Garcia. No surprise. A federal judge has denied the government's request to hold Garcia in continued detention while his criminal case proceeds. But as the Post editorial board says, Trump's getting the job done on deportations even without the mass raids. That does it for us today. Thank you for all the comments. Thank you for all the ways. We greatly appreciate it. And thanks to Drenald Bakari for being our guest. He is running for Steuben County Legislature in the district that encompasses Irwin. Tomorrow is primary day. We'll be reminding you tomorrow, but make sure you put it in your calendar. We don't want you to miss it. Not a huge turnout typically for primaries. And I know you've been asked to vote 3 times in a month, 2 on the school budget, now on the primary, but I'm asking you, even with the heat, I'm asking you to get out and vote because your vote matters, and it matters a lot in the primaries. When you're talking such low voter turnout, percentage-wise, your vote matters a lot. And you could, I'm not exaggerating, you could make the difference. We could see races being decided by 1 vote, 5 votes, 10 votes, things like that. So please get out and vote. We'll remind you tomorrow as well. So tune in every weekday morning at 6 a.m. for Frankly Speaking, only on WYDC TV Big Fox. We'll see you tomorrow morning, bright and early. Look forward to it already.
I'm Marianne Crawford. I've lived here for 70 years, but I do fine right here in my house, and I want to be here as long as I can be. And I feel comfortable knowing that if something happened to me, someone would know because of the cameras that are installed in various spots in my home. That has been a wonderful gift to me to be able to have that security and that support from Full Circle America, and that's what it's all about.
Hi, this is Till, owner of Hesselson's in Amara Heights. At Hesselson's, we care about your well-being and overall health, whether it's relieving stress, muscle recovery, increasing circulation, or just revitalizing the body. Hesselson's now has 2 complete line of infrared and traditional rock saunas in our new and expanded showroom. Come in today and see why owning a sauna is a start of your new healthy lifestyle. Hesselson's is still locally and family owned and operated in Elmira Heights. After 70 years, it's still fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
Lease a brand new 2025 Hyundai Tucson SE all-wheel drive featuring push-button start and alloy wheels. No money down for only $379 a month for 36 months. Make car buying simple. Drive your deal at Simmons Rockwell Hyundai in Big Flats.